I, male 24, moved out of my parents' house due to their constant favoritism. They preferred my younger sister, Alicia, female 18, for literally everything. I was treated as an afterthought, and they even planned trips together where it was just the three. Despite all of this, I didn't view Alicia as a terrible person, but more as a victim of the way she was raised. Apart from the sibling drama, my parents had enough issues of their own anyway. Dad was very emotionally distant on a good day, and my mom was the polar opposite. She would try to control every aspect of our lives, down to the friends we had, hobbies we had, and even what we wanted to do in the future. It wasn't just her shoving her opinion down our throats, but actively going out of her way to make sure we were in line with what she wanted. For example, when I got into baseball in elementary school, I was pretty good at it, and the school encouraged my hobby. But mom thought it was a waste of time, and because of that, she pulled me out of it, caused a scene with the coach and everything. That's just a minor example of the kind of stuff she's done. She even ended a relationship of mine by purposefully creeping out and threatening my girlfriend. These aspects of our parents affected both me and Alicia, and that's why I have a complicated relationship with her. Yes, she did benefit from being the golden child in terms of resources and attention, but she also suffered. Alicia was on the receiving end of my parents' bad traits more often than me, since I learned to rebel and be my own thing at an early age. As soon as I could, I moved into an apartment with a few friends. Naturally, my parents viewed this as a betrayal. My mom came to visit and said, "You're throwing away everything I worked for, OP. You are going to waste your life like this." I shut the door in her face and have been no contact ever since. I wasn't planning on going to college anyways and soon found work in a tattoo parlor. Eventually, I worked my way to an apprenticeship, met my girlfriend Bryn, and started my own business. Things are looking up for me, and just last year, my girlfriend and I welcomed our son Bruce into the world. Overall, I would say that leaving my parents behind was the best decision I made. I still kept in touch with Alicia and knew that she had gone to UCLA for college. I kept up with her, but she was quite distant with me, and there wasn't much for us to talk about. Despite the distance, though, I always told her that she was welcome to keep in touch with me, unlike our parents. This came into play last month when Alicia called me and told me that she's flying into Albuquerque, where we live. She sounded really distraught on the call and asked me if she could crash at my place. I agreed and decided to comfort her first and get details on what had happened later. After Alicia got settled in, she told me that mom and dad had banned her from coming back to their house permanently. She had already booked her ticket to come back home for summer break, and it left her stranded. When I asked her why they had done this, she said that mom threw a fit because she was contemplating a major that our parents didn't consider valuable. This banning was a power play to make sure that Alicia lived within their rules. At least that's how she presented it, and that's how I bought it. Bryn and I decided it would be okay to let my sister stay over for the summer break. And when, if she was ready, she could try and patch things up with our parents. However, in the span of 1 month, I've realized that my sister is extremely entitled and spoiled. That figures since she was basically raised with all the luxuries of an only child. But the extent to which she had become spoiled was a shock to me. She couldn't do basic chores, spent all her free time partying and messing around, and was extremely irresponsible. Cleaning up after her and watching her blow through our groceries without a single thank you for having me was tough to watch. However, I still thought I was doing the right thing, keeping her with me as opposed to the alternative. At the time, I had Alicia with me. I didn't have any contact with my parents either. For me, personally, I would be dead against speaking to them for anything. However, sometimes I feel like I should hear them out for this because Alicia seems really sketchy whenever I ask her about her college. She changes the topic or deflects. All that tension finally built up after I shouted at her for not taking care of my son. Bryn and I had to go to the house of some celebrity client to discuss tattoo ideas and consult on a few projects, and couldn't take Bruce with us. I asked Alicia if she could stay at home and take care of my son, and she happily agreed. Now, I feel like a dumbass for even thinking that she was capable, but at that moment, I didn't know just how bad it was. Basically, in my workshop, I have an area with tattooing tools and a set of skin sheets for practicing my designs. I've never let Bruce around this area because it's just common sense. But Alicia got caught up in a video call with her friends and decided that it would be a good idea to let Bruce wander around. He got into my workshop. Thankfully, my wife and I got home before anything major happened, but Bruce still spilled a bunch of ink everywhere and got some on his arm, leading to an allergic reaction. Alicia was still on her call when we arrived and only ended it when Bryn and I saw the door to my workshop open. We took Bruce to the ER immediately. He's shaken, but otherwise okay. He had an allergic reaction to the dye in one of my inks, which isn't uncommon. After that, though, I was no longer ready to keep Alicia in my house. I called my dad and told him that he had to take his daughter from my house. It was the first time I'd spoken to him in years, and I'm sure he was shocked to find out that Alicia was with me. After a lot of back and forth, he finally relented to picking Alicia up. After that, my sister has been calling me an a-hole to reach out to our parents. According to her, I'm putting her back in a toxic environment on purpose. But from my point of view, she's a legitimately terrible person to be around and maybe a danger to my family. While I'm sympathized with her while growing up, my time apart from family has made me realize that the bonds we choose to keep are more important than the ones we're born with. I don't think I'm doing the wrong thing, am I? Update 1. Dad came to pick up Alicia yesterday, and while things were tense between us, he did provide us with a lot of info about what really went on with my sister. Firstly, they didn't ban her from coming back home because they didn't agree with her major. They banned her because she basically failed in every single class. After that, Alicia was contemplating dropping out, and that's when they decided to run their power play. I mean, it's still messed up and toxic, but it's definitely made Alicia less of a victim than her story. Furthermore, it turns out that my parents have been sending my sister large amounts of money during her time in college. After all, she was their golden child. And she spent it all on clothes and random shopping sprees. As a consequence of that, she can't pay rent, and her roommates have threatened to kick her out. The obvious solution is to get a part-time job, but she's not willing to do that either. Dad was grumbling about the whole thing as if Mom and his pampering didn't contribute directly to Alicia's behavior. I told him as much, and he was pissed. The fact that I was doing well for myself and clearly had a solid family dynamic also seemed to get to him, because I guess he expected that I'd be living in a dump with a crazy wife and bratty kid. Misery loves company, I guess. Update 2. Alicia's back with our parents for the time being, and I think they've convinced her to not drop out of college. I don't know whether they're going to be paying for her rent, but that does seem to be the case. I guess they don't want her to deviate from her path, even though it's clear she's not happy there. It's bad for my parents and it's bad for my sister, but I feel like I'm mentally checked out from all this. I know these posts usually end up with a reconciliation or something like that, but I'm not that kind of guy. I'm super happy with my wife and my son, and I don't really feel the need to let my family back into my life. Yes, I did let Alicia stay with me, but that's when I thought the alternative was being homeless for wanting to follow her dreams. I have been in touch with Dad and my sister for a little while, although my sister wants nothing to do with me, just until this whole thing is fully settled. After that, though, I think I'll go back to being no contact with my parents, and we'll go no contact with Alicia, too. Update 3. A small update. When I texted my dad and told him about my intentions to continue being no contact with him, He told me that he respected my wishes and was proud of me. This surprised me more than anything because I can't think of the man ever saying that he was proud of me. It felt like a moment of closure between us, and I think once I fully processed what he said, maybe, just maybe, I could have some kind of relationship with my parents. I'm not banking on it though. As I said, my number one priority is my new family, and I would like to know that the change in my heart from dad is consistent and not a moment of emotion. I mean, he was literally the polar opposite when he came to visit, and that's still fresh in my mind. Any advice would be appreciated. NTA, and I have to say, it's amazing how you built your life up like that. I can tell from your story that you've been through a lot and have not let your family trauma influence your relationship with your wife and kids. I hope your sister also figures out a way to be independent like you without acting out or relying on her parents' resources. NTA, Alicia was way out of line for endangering your kid's safety. You better not let her back into your house. I guess the relationship with your dad might be a bit more complicated, but it's best to let it grow organically and not try and initiate too much contact. Next story. I, female, 33, lost my husband very unexpectedly 7 years ago. We knew each other from a very young age and married when we graduated college. I have known his family for almost my entire life, and they are the closest I have to actual family. My own family situation has always been difficult. I became very close with his parents in particular. I will still call my in laws in this post. And we supported each other heavily through the grief process. We didn't have children before he passed, but we were trying. I still miss my husband every day. I began slowly dating again 4 years ago, mostly casual dates and nothing serious. In laws were broadly supportive. I told them I was ready to date, and they said okay, but didn't want to know the details. I only ever spoke about my dating life vaguely and infrequently to them. Around the time I got a big promotion and began to spend a couple of months a year in Paris for work, pandemic permitting, then a year ago I met Armand, male, 38, and started my first serious relationship since being widowed. Given Armand lives in Paris, our relationship is based there, and while we have traveled quite a lot together, we haven't been to the US together yet. He hasn't met my in laws, but I have told them I am dating someone. Around Christmas, we found out I was pregnant. This was a total surprise as we weren't trying. We have since decided that I will move to France permanently instead of splitting my time between the US and France so that we can raise a family together. It isn't really possible for Armand to move to the US. He works in the art industry, and his studio and backers are all Europe based. I told my in laws, and they were deeply upset. They said I was depriving them of their only opportunity to have a grandchild. My husband was an only child. They then accused me of moving on too quickly and not loving my husband. In the end, we had a huge argument, and they have demanded that I leave all my husband's belongings from our apartment, his clothes, personal effects, etc., to them when I moved to Paris. They also demanded my engagement ring, which is a family heirloom. They said they should have these because while I have moved on, he will never stop being their son. I said no. These things are all treasured memories from my life with him that I never want to forget. They have threatened legal action to recover the ring in particular. I'm not sure they have a proper legal right, but I can see the hurt I'm causing them with my choices and maybe giving them what they ask for. They will be able to have closure, AITA for continuing to refuse. Edit 1. In response to comments, after the funeral, I already gave many of my husband's possessions to my in laws. What I kept were some clothes that reminded me of happy times, things with his handwriting on it, memories from trips, etc. I want to keep these. It's not like I will be lugging a huge amount of things to Paris. I don't think it's unreasonable that I keep these. They're memories we made, not with his parents. The ring is trickier. but it is the biggest reminder to me of the relationship we once had. It really breaks my heart to give it away. Edit 2. Wow, I really didn't expect to wake up and see so many comments. Thank you all who shared their thoughts. A few clarificatory points in response to messages I've received, both posts below and DMs. A post below pointed out it was worth clarifying that I don't have a separate wedding band. We couldn't find one we liked and which matched the ring. So my engagement ring is also my wedding band, which my husband put on my finger in the church. I really don't want to lose a relationship with my in laws. They have always been so kind to me before this all happened. For example, I've been spending every major holiday like Christmas, etc., with them for the past decade. But neither do I want to bend to their unreasonable behavior. Moving to France and going completely silent isn't an option. I do want to repair the relationship in the long term. Ultimately, I'd love them to visit us. The argument happened over the phone as I have been in Paris since we found out about the pregnancy, and I didn't want to delay telling them the news. I'm due to fly back for a month or so to get my affairs in order soon. I intend to meet them in person, then, if they agree. A few posts were concerned about what Armand thinks, which is very kind of them. Armand and I have a strong relationship, and he has known about my husband since the beginning. He respects that I want to keep a piece of the marriage with me and has encouraged me to bring anything I want over to help with the transition. We're also not engaged, nor do I expect to be in the immediate future, and I'm in no rush on that front. We're comfortable as we are. Finally, there were some concerns over whether I used the ring. I do wear the ring frequently, and it's the only ring I wear with any regularity. Someone also suggested that I might need to sell the ring in the future for the benefit of my new family. Without going into detail, both Armand and I earn more than enough for this to never be a necessity or an option. NTA, I can sort of understand the engagement ring since it was a family heirloom, but because you are now happy again doesn't mean you've forgotten your husband or don't love him. But he is gone, and if he was a good person, he would like to see you happy again. The only ones depriving them of a grandchild are they themselves, as you seem more than willing to keep them in your life. I'm going to be in the minority and say NTA. You didn't get into a relationship for several years after your husband died. If there are things you want to downsize on to move across the world that belong to your husband, I would suggest giving them to his parents. I don't see why you would need a closet full of his clothes or all his childhood accomplishments, etc. But the ring, the family ends with them. Your husband was gifted the ring to give to you, and I don't think he would want you to give it back. If they consider your child their grandchild, which is both kind and a little weird, they would want it to go to that child one day, would they not? Keep in touch with them when you move and give them what you can. But he wasn't just their son, he was also your husband. Life is for the living. You're allowed to move on and live your life. NTA, but I'd give them the ring. Are you going to pack up all his things and move them to Paris? Probably not. Keep the things that mean the most and give his parents some. You deserve to be happy. Next story. My girlfriend's parents are supposed to be meeting my parents soon, which is a very big milestone in our relationship. However, my mom is insistent that she brings along her husband and introduces him as my stepfather, dad. My dad died nearly 10 years ago of cancer when I was in my 20s. He was always good to my family and supported us. I'm happy that my mom is remarried to someone who makes her happy and supports her, but I've never considered her current husband to be my father. He's very nice, but his efforts to reach out to me remind me of a longtime friend. He's more of a friend or uncle to me than a father. Even after knowing me for so long, I can't say that we're very close. He's never been receptive to my emotional conversations and was very distant when I would get depressed about my dad's death. He's a generally nice person, but I don't feel comfortable introducing him to my girlfriend's family for other reasons. He's traditional, believes in the working man, homemaker, wife dynamic. and has made comments about working women being unable to raise their kids to my mom and me. He dislikes how my girlfriend flaunts her intelligence and lectured him for making a sexist joke when she was visiting. However, he is civil and polite to her when she's around. He told my mom it would be an honor to meet my girlfriend's parents. He considers himself to be like a father to me. Undeniably, he's helped out my family and me a lot, but he doesn't try to emotionally connect with me that much. My girlfriend resembles her mom strongly, as they are both hard workers and have sought higher education. However, they are both serious people and are not easygoing, so there may be some conflict between them and my mom's husband. Additionally, my girlfriend and her parents have no interest in meeting him, as I've told them repeatedly that I don't consider him a father. My girlfriend's mom even went so far as to say it would be offensive, rude, to bring him along. They consider step parents to be valid parents, but don't think my stepfather should come along if I don't think he's like a father to me. They were more receptive to the idea of visiting my father's graveside and paying their respects than meeting my stepfather. However, my mother is adamant that my stepfather come along, otherwise she won't meet my girlfriend's parents. She believes I am being rude and denying my stepfather's importance in the family. She's offended that I'm embarrassing him in front of her future in-laws and that I'm maliciously excluding him. Edit. There are some other things I should clarify. Other reasons I do not wish to include my mom's husband in this meeting is that he is an anti-vax conservative who dislikes immigrants. My girlfriend's parents are immigrant doctors. He also doesn't know about my girlfriend's line of work, which her parents are very vocal about, and he wouldn't take kindly to it either. Additionally, my girlfriend isn't allowed at family events for my family, like Christmas and Thanksgiving, because I am not married to her, according to my stepfather and mother, who are traditional Catholics. Edit. I know my calling my mom's husband nice wasn't a great step. I was thinking from the perspective that my mom calls him nice and polite, and that she's all I care about in my immediate family right now. And I'm used to calling him nice for her sake. Edit. I talked with my older sister and brother-in-law about it, and it did not go well. Just because your mom married someone doesn't mean you have to consider them your father. You are well past any developmental age where you would have had a better chance to connect in that way. If your mom is adamant that she will not meet your girlfriend's parents without him, then you might have to tell her that she will get her wish, but not the way she wants. This is supposed to be a fun, pleasant time, not a time for arguments. And if she's going to be making a stink over it now, she's likely to cause a scene when the event occurs as well. NTA, you have set your boundaries for this first meeting. If your mom is unwilling to abide by these boundaries, then she doesn't get to come to the meeting anymore. You really buried the lead there, you know. The edits make clear that your stepfather sucks, and so does your mom. If they don't allow your girlfriend to come to family events, neither one deserves this meeting to begin with. NTA. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.